Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to This Explainer. You know, parent to parent, navigating a child's sudden interest in, well, changing their body, it can be incredibly tricky. Today, we're exploring a really crucial topic based on the work of Dr. Ömer Çelikkol, why a kid's sudden push to diet might not just be a passing phase, but could actually be a serious red flag. Obviously, we all want to support our kids' health, right? But we really need to understand how rigid restriction can completely backfire.
Picture this. Your teenager walks into the kitchen and makes this exact declaration. I am cutting out bread, sugar, and dinner until I lose 10 pounds. Now, initially, you might actually feel this wave of, well, misguided relief. You're probably thinking, great, they're finally taking their health seriously. But here's the thing. A self-directed crash diet like this completely ignores their hunger, their developmental needs, and their actual health history. It's kind of just a dangerous path masquerading as discipline.
Which brings us to Section 1, the restrict and overeat cycle. Let's look at how a totally well-intentioned health goal quickly spirals into this biological and psychological trap. Okay, so on day 1, your teen follows strict rules, and honestly, they probably get a lot of praise for their discipline. But by day 4, biological hunger sharply increases. Then we hit day 6, and the psychological restriction combined with that intense hunger leads to eating far, far beyond fullness. It's what we call loss of control eating. Finally, day 7 rolls around. Intense guilt sets in, and how do they respond? By making the rules even stricter. It's literally a vicious cycle of restriction, preoccupation, shame, and then just more restriction.
Moving on to Section 2, bodies under construction.
So, the crucial point is, children and teenagers are not just small adults, right? Inside a teenager, there is an intense biological construction site at work. I mean, they're actively building bone, growing muscle, developing brain tissue, regulating new hormones, and maturing their reproductive systems. That's a lot. So when a child follows a restrictive plan designed for a fully grown adult, that restriction literally steals the necessary energy and nutrients required for all of this growth. It impairs their learning, it totally disrupts their mood regulation, and leaves them without the actual fuel they need just for daily physical activity.
Which brings us to a really common assumption that we absolutely need to challenge. Does weight loss prove a plan is healthy? Often, parents or maybe coaches will congratulate a falling number on the scale. But listen, that rapid or unexplained weight loss, it might actually represent severe dehydration, skipped meals, lost expected growth, or even really dangerous behaviors like purging. A child does not need to appear extremely thin before restrictive eating becomes a serious medical danger.
That leads us into Section 3, food is not a test.
Let's shift gears for a second and talk about the psychological toll of diet culture. Because beyond the physical dangers, rigid dieting profoundly damages a kid's internal regulation, and it basically warps their entire relationship with food. Notice the contrast here. On the left, we've got harmful diet culture labels, words like good or bad, clean or dirty. If a child eats a quote-unquote bad dessert, they feel ashamed. Making food a moral test turns ordinary eating into a character failure. It just breeds secrecy. Instead, look at the right side. We need to use helpful parent language. We can talk about nourishment, energy, satisfaction, and the frequency of foods. We're completely taking the moral judgment out of the equation.
And you know, we really need to apply this exact same mindset to physical activity. Exercise is not repayment for eating. Movement is supposed to support cardiovascular health, bone strength, joy, and mood. When you hear statements like, oh, you need to run off that dessert, it connects food with guilt and frames exercise as a punishment. We absolutely want movement to be about connection and skill, not just this chore of burning off calories.
All right, Section 4, crash diets versus medical care. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly it separates unsupervised restriction from real medical care. Because rejecting dangerous crash diets definitely does not mean we're just ignoring a child's health or neglecting clinical obesity. At the top, you see crash or influencer diets. These rely on rigid rules and fasting with basically zero monitoring. High risk? Absolutely not for kids. In the middle, we have family health routines, and this is a supportive foundation of regular meals and sleep. But check out the bottom row, clinical obesity treatment. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends this when clinically indicated. Why? Because it's individualized, it's family-centered, heavily monitored, and evidence-based. It does not rely on humiliation or starvation. It's actual true medical treatment.
But unfortunately, let's be real, our kids usually aren't getting their ideas from pediatricians, are they? They're getting them online. Social media accelerates these harmful diet rules like wildfire. A teenager's feed is just flooded with what I eat in a day videos, fasting challenges, and wild detox claims made by totally unqualified fitness creators. And worse, the algorithms just amplify all of this. If a child pauses on one diet post for even a second, they're instantly fed increasingly extreme, unmonitored content. It completely normalizes these dangerous behaviors under the guise of quote-unquote health.
So what do we do? Section 5, the 8-part anti-diet family plan.
Here are the first 4 actionable steps you can take. First, define the behavior. You need to find out exactly what dieting actually means to them right now. Are they skipping meals, tracking calories? Second, stop unsafe practices immediately. I mean it. There is zero tolerance for fasting, pills, or purging. Third, restore regular eating. You want to provide predictable family meals and snacks because long gaps just intensify extreme hunger and trigger binging. And fourth, like we talked about earlier, remove that moral language. Swap out the word bad for nourishment. Let's move to and see how this builds for the final 4 steps. Step 5 is to review their digital sources. Literally ask who created their diet plan and what qualifications they actually have. Step 6, if weight or health is a genuine concern, use a qualified pediatric assessment. Step 7 is absolutely vital. Support the whole family. Plan regular meals for everybody. Please do not put one child on a visibly different, isolated punishment diet. And finally, step 8 is to constantly monitor both health and eating disorder risks. Keep a close watch for secret eating, intense body checking, or even just shifting moods.
Now, I want to be super clear about this. Rejecting rigid dieting does not mean total chaos. Families should still absolutely provide a flexible structure. As the parent, you provide predictable meal times, make nutritious foods available, and, set limits on constant distracted eating. The whole point is that this structure should guide your child and help them recognize their own hunger and satisfaction without turning every single bite of food into an act of parental surveillance.
If your child is really fixated on a target weight or a specific body image, ask them this profound question. What do you believe will become different after you reach that number? Often, when you really dig down into it, a teenager's true goal isn't actually weight loss. What they're really hoping for is, maybe, an end to bullying, or a boost in confidence, a new romance, or honestly, simply a sense of belonging. And a diet? A diet cannot reliably solve those problems.
Which leaves us with our final takeaway for this explainer. The ultimate goal is to protect your child's growth and health, but to do it without making food and body size a daily test of their personal worth. When we strip away the shame, the rigid rules, and the noise of digital diet culture, what we're left with is true nourishment. So I'm going to leave you with this question to consider. How can you change your family's daily language today to ensure your child knows, without a doubt, that their worth has absolutely nothing to do with the scale?